critically analyzing global affairs. The Muckrakers on today's News Talk, TNT.
Well, welcome back to the Muckrakers with me, Andrew Eborn, with Basil Valentine, and our wonderful special guest today, Errol Musk. You might have heard of him as well, so always a joy. And we've been doing a deep dive into the wonderful world of Elon and talking about free speech and the restrictions and so on and so forth. And we're just talking about the interview that Elon did with Donald Trump on the 12th of August. And you might remember that before then, he'd come off at X, as it now is. Basically, and the last shot was that mugshot that he had when he was arrested. And being the brilliant media manipulator that Trump is, he turned that mugshot into a multi-million-dollar fundraising business, selling mugs with the mugshot, quite appropriately. But it was a bromance. I loved seeing both of them together and basically praising each other. What was your take on it, Errol?
Well, I thought Elon's questions were very balanced. I thought, I didn't watch, it's very long, so I watched bits of it. I thought Trump's answers were very long, and I thought if I were able to, I would tell him to make the points a little shorter, that's all, his replies, because he would tend to ramble on, which I think is natural in terms of what's in his head all the time and what he wants to convey. But otherwise, it was a very nice interview. I didn't see anything about it that was wrong. It was fine.
Yeah, and it certainly was a free-flowing, and he said he wants to be a conversation rather than holding his feet to the fire, and so on and so forth. And what he offered, he talked about some really heavy issues, such as, the waste of money in government, and Trump effectively offered him a job. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yes, well, the job would be the cabinet post, the Ministry of Efficiency.
Right.
A Ministry of Efficiency. So what that particular cabinet's job would be is to monitor the efficiency of the other departments. And Elon said he would like to run that department. And of course, from my point of view, as I was a consulting electromechanical engineer to the private industry, where every last cent mattered, every last penny, or whatever you call it, was mattered in terms of expenditure, and we could never waste on anything at all. That's how private sector works, and that's how Elon has run all his businesses, and so on. So he wants to get into these to set them right. I had to laugh. Biden a few nights ago said that, bless him, I don't know what to say about him, but anyway, seems an odd character. But anyway, he said that in his administration, they put up 500 charging stations. So I immediately thought, no, I've heard about this before. So I checked, and I found out that the government actually only built 8, or had plans for 8 charging stations, the American government, and only 4 were commissioned. And none of the others, all the others, because I've used the Tesla charging stations a lot, In fact, it's funny in America now, I don't know what it's like in England, but if you go to the petrol station, like Shell or something, you've got Shell on the one side, and on the other side, you've got all these charging, it's Tesla chargers. There's usually something like, 16 chargers or something like that. And on the trip I just did across the States 8 weeks ago, every freaking charger is got a car in it. So it's just like going to a petrol station now. And you think, oh no. And then you think, oh well, you wait for somebody to leave, and then you take your car in. And then as you know, fast charge, depending on how far you want to go, can be anything from 20 minutes to 40 minutes. So then you back in, and then you go and have a cup of tea, a coffee or tea in the restaurant. But generally, it's so strange to see. I'm just going into that, all these charging stations, but they're all put up by Tesla, not by. I can't understand how it's possible to make such a gigantic lie over the air and say I put up 500 charging stations.
Yeah, it is. It's good to call it out. Yeah, tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. What they need to introduce, just as an aside, they need to introduce dynamic charging. I'm sure your son's working on that. Basil, what's your view?
Well, Biden's a professional liar. Of course, he's been doing it for 50 years. We had that dreadful spectacle of him praising himself at the Democratic National Convention when he's achieved almost nothing for the American people in 50 years of politics. But Elon as Minister of Efficiency, would be, very exciting. Really shake things up. And we heard here on TNT yesterday, I was talking to Martin Armstrong, in my program, and he said he's putting pressure on Robert Kennedy to abandon his own campaign, throw his lot in with Donald Trump in exchange for the position of Attorney General, which, of course, his father held before him. So with Elon and Bobby Kennedy Jr. in the administration, the Trump ticket starts to look more attractive.
Yeah, no, very, very interesting. Well, one of the things you touched on as well, Errol, was security. And during the Trump interview, one of my favorite quotes from Donald Trump, which nobody really seemed to have picked up, although we did on the Muckrakers here, was that Donald Trump said that illegal immigration saved his life. That was the quote. And what he did, he was referencing the fact that the appropriate time that he turned his head, and so the bullet just sort of scraped his ear, was to look at the illegal immigration slide, and he was proud of the numbers. What did you make of that?
Well, obviously, it's an interesting comment. I mean, it was a terrible thing, and I don't think one should joke about it. I think it's quite obvious that an attempt was made to assassinate Trump by whoever, I can't imagine. But what one has to be concerned about is what now? What's going to happen now? Are they going to make another attempt? Are they going to try again? And I think I can hear where Basil and you are coming from. You think much like I do, and so we're thinking things might become right. But in fact, the chances are things are going to go more Keir Starmer's type of people way before they start going our way. And one worries that in spite of everything, in spite of the fact that the census that Elon had just put out about Trump or Harris, and it's 77% in favor of Trump, we might well find ourselves at the end of the year with a runaway win by Kamala Harris, which everybody will say, well, how on earth did this happen? And people have short memories and they try to get on with their lives. And one has to be aware of the fact that we're not dealing with people who play fair. We're not dealing with people who think squarely. We're dealing with people who actually think in terms of doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
No matter what.
And that's a real concern, isn't it? And you're right, you should never joke about this. But it's actually that sort of dark humor. It was Trump himself who made the joke, and Elon as well was sort of basically, obviously, in dark times, people come up with these sort of dark humor. It's a sort of release mechanism, if you like. But you must be concerned. Yeah, you must be concerned as a father about the added security for Elon. And you mentioned, I think, about 30 guards and things like that. What do you say to him about that?
I've met some of them. Yeah, no, that he's got fantastic guards. I mean, absolutely the most amazing people, strong men and such character, and he has that. And I am very concerned about his safety, about his his safety. I mean, the planes we've had now twice. Trump's jet had to land because of problems, and then Vance's jet had to land because of problems. I'm a practical person, I start looking, I went to high school for a start, so having been to high school, I'm sure, and I was at a co-ed high school, you learn a lot at high school, you learn very quickly about what's really happening, and using those sort of lessons that you learn at school, it doesn't take much to realize, the world out there is not as nice as you'd like it to be, The people are up to all sorts of things, and when their very lives, their own very welfare and lives depend on things going their way, they will do anything necessary to get things going their way. I was talking earlier to someone who was saying to me that the Republicans, he was saying at this point, man was making a point to me, the Republicans in America seem to play by the rules, whereas the Democrats do not play by the rules. And it's high time, he said, this very smart gentleman said to me, that the Republicans should start, I don't agree with that, but that they should not play by the rules anymore. But that's counterproductive. But as he pointed out, the Republicans seem to take things the way you should, and the Democrats seem to do it in a different way, in a way that I wouldn't agree with. And coming back to England as a place, I was listening to Basil just now talking about England, and I mean, England was such a place of high morals when I was a child. I mean, everybody was so decent, everything was so nice that I can't understand what it is that they want to take away from England. Why would they want to ruin that? I'm sure a lot of England is still the same.
Well, and this is the problem. We've become so tribal, haven't we, as a result? And I think it's looking at that sort of stuff. And one of the things I just want to finish on is, and we will get you back, it'd be fantastic, it was the Olympics. Because one of the things that Elon was accused of was cyberbullying. You might remember there was this Emain Khalif was the person who won the gold medal for women's boxing. And there was the whole debate about gender and so on and so forth. And this particular boxer, even though they complied with the IOC rules about eligibility, they basically had an XY chromosome, or there might be extra reason, they might be a bit stronger and so on and so forth. There was a question about the gender. And Elon tweeted, as did Trump and J.K. Rowling, as in bowling, all tweeted about this sort of stuff, about hate speech and the ability to actually call out, and it was a general comment, that men should not be in women's sport. Now, I know with this particular athlete, they probably may not be classified, and actually they've always been a woman, so it's a slightly different argument. But to be able to say that men should not be in women's sport, you've got to be able to say that even if people find that uncomfortable. That's fair, isn't it?
Yes, of course. And I, again, as I'm a practical person, and I spent 20 years of my life doing judo and karate, which I enjoyed immensely, it's quite evident to me that in that particular boxing match, it was a man versus a woman. And the Boxing Federation had previously declared that the taller one was, in fact, a man. So I saw what happened there. I saw the girl turn around and say, I can't do this. And you have to be really stupid to not realize there's something grossly out of kilt there, that shouldn't be happening. And when I see these, I saw the other day, these weightlifters come in, and the girls try to lift something, and in comes a trans weightlifter. And then he lifts up twice as much, and he wins. I mean, but he's a she now. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And not to be able to say it's ridiculous is silly. I mean, it's obviously ridiculous. And here, luckily in South Africa, we still stuck a bit in the past. We're still about a few years behind everybody else. So here we would simply say straight out, hey, what are you doing? Get off there. You're a man. Go and play with the men. Get away. We wouldn't put up with that here in this country. As a matter of fact, I must just add, I spent a month in the month of June and May and June in Texas. And my daughter was pointing out to me that, Dad, we never see any of these things that they talk about on the news. There's no sign anywhere of wokeness. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's also strange because they put it out on media as though it's everywhere, but in fact you can't find it anywhere, even in Texas. Certainly maybe in other states, but not in Texas. You don't find any wokeness there.
No, it is extraordinary. And I think long may we continue to be able to call these things out. As I say, this particular athlete, it's not their fault because it was the IOC regulations and eligibility. But the right to just comment on things makes a lot of play. Basil, 10 seconds, because then we've got to wind up. 10 seconds.
Very quickly, that particular athlete, I saw a picture the other day of her wearing a heavily padded boxing groin guard, which are used exclusively by male boxers for obvious reasons. So, but she's actually born intersex.
There you go.
Transsexual, but it's actually somebody of indeterminate gender according to the genitalia, but not fully a woman in terms of chromosomes. And that's the whole point. She's not a woman. What? Don't sue me.
We'll continue to look it up. Sadly, we've run out of time. It's been a fascinating discussion. Errol, we'll have you back. Thank you so much. Basil, as always, a joy. And I will see the rest of you tomorrow. Take care.